It is good to be back. And I'm your host, Erich Treslar. Bringing in my co-host today, Mr. Eric Pfeiffer. Here to talk a little NFL coaching, maybe even a little college coaching craziness in the last couple of weeks. We know the playoffs are going on right now. We're focusing on head coaching today. And nobody else I'd rather do it with than you. So welcome, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to be back with you, my buddy. I've been missing you.
All right. So which one of these coaching hires or fires or lack thereof yet are you surprised at? Let's start there.
I'm not sure I have too many surprises, to be honest with you, as far as the NFL goes. Like, Pete Carroll, 72 years old. They underachieved or were what they were supposed to be, at least. I think the rumors about Mike McCarthy are legitimate. I think it's definitely time to take a look at it. I'm not 100% surprised by really anything. Belichick was sort of expected. Things haven't been going that well there. You got to figure that franchise, it's been a while. It's been a very long time since he's been at the helm. The last couple of years haven't been good. So you got to figure it's time to switch things up. And the surprise to me, kind of, but not 100%, was the quick hire of Gerard Mayo. But we know it's a copycat league. And you look at the success that DeMeco Ryans been having over in Houston. It didn't surprise me 100% that they went ahead and did that. So I'm not 100% surprised by much.
Saving tree is what I got to say right there. DeMeco Ryans, Gerard Mayo. I mean, they, I don't know. They but I'm just saying that I agree. 100% quick hires. And I'm wondering how they can hire so fast. Isn't there some kind of process? I could have seen Vrabel going there, to be honest with you. Up where, it seemed really fast. Do you think this decision was made weeks ago? Why do you think it was made so fast? I, again, like the decision, but wondering your thoughts on just the speed of it, because it just seemed like there was no process. It was Belichick's gone, he's in. I kind of feel the same way about Saban and the way they just brought in DeBoer. Granted, now DeBoer's record looks phenomenal. But at the same time, I think he's like 103-12 over, his NCAA career. But either way, I just so fast. Saban was out 3 days later. This guy's in. Like, how do these things happen so fast when, especially today's day and age, normally there's a process. Normally there's a lot of names that get kicked around. Why have these deals been happening just so fast?
I'm sure these organizations and franchises have had an idea that this was going to go this way for a while. So maybe it seems fast to us, but in the grand scheme of things, maybe it wasn't fast. Maybe this was something that was in the works. They kind of saw the writing on the wall that this needed to happen, and they had.
I can see that with Mayo a little bit. Not to me, it's tougher with the DeBoer Saban thing because, I mean, I don't know I don't think you could talk to a coach in season that way. Like, I think there'd be some kind of tampering, something like, I don't think you can have those discussions. So, I tend to think that maybe it was just based on record, how well he's done, the way he was able to take Washington to a national championship game. I mean, I know he's the hot name right now, so maybe, they scooped him up fast, but I don't know. It seemed quick. It seemed really, really quick. And I thought there were a couple names that could have been kicked around.
Let's look at, let's say Eric Bieniemy, right? Like, one of the things that people always have their excuse that he doesn't interview well. Well, maybe this guy came in for his first interview and knocked it out of the park, and they just say, you know what, we don't need to talk to anybody else. This is the guy we want. It's hard to tell, really, but I understand what you're saying. Alabama, college, that's more your wheelhouse. But it seems quick, but it's hard to be surprised really by much in the sports world these days,
Yeah. So one that's got me going, and I'm wondering why it hasn't happened yet, because it probably should have happened at halftime when all the rumors started swirling anyway. Why is McCarthy still in Dallas?
That's probably something where they're going to have to go through the process, and they're going to do they still got to do their exit interviews and all that good jazz and things of that nature. And it's, like I've heard the rumors of maybe Belichick going there. I don't really see that happening. If McCarthy does get ousted, I agree with you. I think he should be out. I mean, how long did he have an elite quarterback in Green Bay, which resulted in some very good regular season play? I think they got one Super Bowl out of the deal. He's probably one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I think we're going to be able to say at the end. And, in the playoffs, things just didn't go well. So it seems to me like it's a McCarthy problem. Uh, so I think he should be out. I think they're going to let him do his exit interviews with his players. And I don't think that Jerry Jones, the guy's been around a while. I don't think feels he needs to rush to a decision right now. I think he's going to sit and wait and see who gets knocked out of the playoffs, which guy, because he can't really start interviewing guys until they're out, and which guys he wants to interview that are going to be up for head coaching jobs next year. So I don't think he feels he needs to rush the decision. And honestly, Jerry Jones, he loves when people talk, whether it's positive or negative. He wants them talking. So by not doing it right away, they're still talking.
Well, if would Belichick even be interested in that job? And I say that because Jerry Jones is so hands-on, does do so many, he's on a weekly show on, I think, on the radio that he does. Like he's out there. Like he's one of the most vocal owners there is. Got his hands in just about everything. I feel like Belichick likes Kraft because Kraft keeps his hands off everything. Like, well, I think it's so different that I don't know. Maybe because he sees the talent there. And again, I don't think any of us deny that Dallas has some talent on both sides of the ball. They got it on both sides. So
I mean, to be perfectly honest, that's exactly why I don't believe it happens. I think the rumors are just that. They're just rumors. I don't think it doesn't hold any water. I don't think there's any weight to it. I don't think Bill Belichick's going anywhere where he doesn't have full control, and that's going to be part of it. When he talks to him, he's Bill Belichick. He's going to either have full control or he's not going to do it. And I don't think he gets that in Dallas. Jerry, like you just said, Jerry is in and out of every facet of the team, the game. I hadn't seen him walk down to the sidelines much this year, which I remember I used to love watching Jerry Jones walk down to the sideline when they were playing the Giants because the team seemed to fall apart every time it happened. But I just don't think Belichick goes and coaches for an owner like that. And that's why I think it's just rumors. I don't think there's any weight to it. And it's just not going to happen. And that's my opinion. I could be wrong. In a couple of months, I could be saying, well, I guess I'm wrong, but I think Bill Belichick wants full control over his team wherever he goes, and he's not going to go to Dallas because of Jerry Jones.
What about Harbaugh? I'm talking the Michigan Harbaugh, not the Ravens Harbaugh. What about Jim Harbaugh? Any chance of him looking at that team, looking at that talent, and wanting to have a conversation with Jerry?
I mean, I wouldn't fault him for it,
He's been rumored a lot in San Diego, which again, Justin Herbert, they got talent there too.
I think that's where Vrabel is the lead candidate, for the Los Angeles Chargers. I think I could be wrong, but this might have been a day or two ago, and you know how fast things change. But I thought I saw that Harbaugh's intentions are to stay at Michigan, but a job like Dallas, that's very enticing. It's hard to say no to, especially with the talent they have. And that talent's on a ticking time bomb right now. It's going to be hard to keep all that together. You got a highly paid quarterback. So, guys just get older every year. So
he seems to like the spotlight too, where I feel like he would like that Dallas spotlight. Like he would, I don't know. I feel like
there's a reason he coached in San Francisco, and there's a reason he coached at Michigan. It's big spotlight, two big spotlight places. I agree with you 100% there.
Any chance that when and if McCarthy gets canned, he gets another chance somewhere else? Because I don't think so. Not right away, anyway. I think he'd go to the booth.
I think he goes. I mean, wasn't he retired before he took the Dallas job?
I'm not sure. He probably was.
I'm pretty sure he was out for a year or maybe 2 before he took that Dallas job. I don't know if it was health things or he wanted to devote more time to his family. I can't remember that 100%, but I'm pretty sure he was retired before he took that Dallas job. I don't know, man. You got to think. Okay, so we go back to the copycat league thing, right? You got Antonio Pierce currently the front runner for the Raiders, right?
He
I
should be,
just
and
think with
he should get that job.
I
To be
think so
honest,
too. I 100% agree, and I also think that sprinkle that on top of the D'Amico Ryan success and what he was able to do with them at the end of the year, and now they have their best defensive player saying that if Antonio Pierce doesn't get the job, he's requesting a trade. Max Crosby's come out and said that if they don't hire Antonio Pierce, I'm asking for a trade.
if he
And
doesn't get
that's a guy
hired,
you don't want to
if
lose.
he doesn't get hired there, he's going to get one of the other jobs. Whether it's the Commanders, I don't know why they wouldn't go after him. I think did he even start his career there in Washington? Pierce might have. I don't know.
I believe so. Yes. Yes.
You know, there's a bunch of places he would land. I think a team would give him a chance. And
but I think his success as interim is also something that helped the Patriots kind of push the Patriots over the edge on that Mayo hire.
Yeah.
You know, you bring in that good defensive player. I know he didn't play for the Raiders, right? But he's a good defensive player. The locker room loves him. He's a fiery kind of guy. He understands, you know, to be as good of a defensive player, especially at the linebacker position in the NFL, you have to be a smart football player.
Oh,
You need to understand both sides of the field. You're just as important
you're the quarterback
as the
of the
quarterback
defense.
on offense.
Yeah, you're the
Right.
quarterback
You're
of the
calling
defense.
the plays. You're making the audibles. You've heard Peyton Manning talk about his favorite battles were against Ray Lewis, where it was just one guy was checking, the other guy was checking. They would check back and forth. They had fake checks against each other. It was, you know, so those guys are smart. You don't become Antonio Pierce without understanding football. So it's hard to say, you know, who's going to get the opportunities right now because.
Well, outside of the Raider job, say he stays there. Say he stays with the Raiders. You look at the rest of the jobs that are open right now. You got the Commanders, the Falcons, the Titans, the Seahawks, the Panthers, and the Chargers are still open. Obviously, the Chargers would be the sexiest team to go to. They'd be the team that you would want to coach. I mean, with that young talent, I mean, you got a catch monster there in Keenan Allen. It looks positive. It looks like LA is just that coach away from being a good team. Outside of them, when you look at the Panthers, the Seahawks, the Titans, the Falcons, and the Commanders, which job would you be taking today if one was offered to you?
Oh, man, that's tough. I don't want anything to do with the Panthers right now. Outside of the Chargers, Seattle. I would love an opportunity to coach up there. I honestly, that's the rumor I think I heard a little more than the Dallas thing, and maybe it's because it's not. Maybe not because McCarthy hasn't been fired yet, but I've heard the Belichick possibly going to Seattle. But I think it's hard for an organization to go from a 72-year-old coach to a 71-year-old coach. But if you look at the Patriots, I mean, Seattle's biggest problem is their defense. And if you look at the Patriots, they lost a couple of their top players on defense. They were horrible on offense. Yeah, but yet still had one of the best defenses in the league.
But they're still questionable at quarterback too, though, and we all know that's the most important position on the field. Like they don't have their guy yet, and that's to me what would scare me away from Seattle is like they're not even drafting high enough to be able to get a guy. You know,
because Gino's not the answer,
and you would have to have and again, draft picks are only as good as the teams using them, but. I just don't know if this new regime in Seattle is going to be smart enough to make the right decisions in the draft anyway. So right now, to me, it's questionable at quarterback there. I don't know if I'm going there. I would almost rather – I would put Carolina ahead of Seattle, in my opinion, only because they just drafted a franchise quarterback. Now you just got to put you got to put a line in front of them. You've got to build the trenches. You got to do a couple of things, but at least you have the franchise guy who's under control for at least the next 4 years. So that to me is where I would look at it. Well, go ahead.
Oh, my bad. I thought I was going to say, what's enticing too is the Commanders if you're looking at it that way because, I know Brissett came in at the end of the year, but Howell was no schlub this year. I mean, he slung the ball around pretty well. He ran the offense pretty good. Now, does the credit go to Eric Bieniemy, and does he finally get an opportunity to become a head coach somewhere? That's a big question too, because the offense, I don't think, was necessarily the problem 100% of the time there. I'm not saying that they were outstanding or they were great. A little disappointing to see, John Dotson's numbers fall off in his second year. But then again, we all know about the sophomore slump. Terry McLaurin still had a pretty good year. And it's not like they have, Brian Robinson Jr. is a good running back. But it's not like they have amazing weapons, but they were still able to move the ball downfield from a fantasy perspective, because I play a lot of. So I'm always looking at numbers. Howell didn't have a bad year. Part of that was because they were down all the time.
Yeah, but they're going to be drafted a quarterback this year, though. But at number 2, they're looking at one of those. They're looking at May. They're looking at, unless they make some kind of trade or do something. But Chicago's already got the number 1 pick, so if they could trade away, Fields, they can pick whatever quarterback they want. So to me, Washington, they would probably get. And if Chicago sticks with Fields, then they're going to get the top guy, whoever they want in the draft. So to me, I think this year Washington takes a quarterback, especially going 4-13. You can say Howell wasn't bad and they had some good fantasy stats, but 4-13 is 4-13. You're not even close to sniffing the playoffs. That's why you're drafting number 2 overall. So
but
as good as their potential could be, they need not only a coach, but they need a QB. In this league, you need a QB.
At the same time, they traded away their defensive pieces midway through the year, too. Everything that was stout on that defense went somewhere else. Now, I don't think Chicago moves away from Fields. I think that would be a mistake. I think the connection you have between Fields and DJ Moore, that's something that you want to roll with. I think, personally, in this draft, I think we've talked about it before with each other personally. It's kind of, to me, it just feels like a very underwhelming quarterback draft. I know there's a lot of people high on certain guys. I'm not necessarily high on them, and I think we get surprised a little bit.
I got to be honest. I like the idea of Chicago moving on from Fields, because I wouldn't mind if the Giants maybe made a move and traded for Fields. I think the price tag would have to come down for him, but I wouldn't mind to seeing what Dable could do with talent like Fields. And I think that he could be a difference maker on a better team, and I would like to see that. So I'm going to maybe root for that. And then, listen, they could take Caleb Williams, they could take, May, they could take whoever. But to bring it back, though, as far as coaching goes, I don't know if that's the job I'm taking. I know they have some talent, but you look at other teams. I like Bijan Robinson. I like the run game down there in Atlanta. I think I know they drafted Desmond Ridder. They still have him. If you could bring in a coach that thinks he could fix Desmond Ridder, or I don't think there's any other good free agent quarterbacks out there this year, so there's nothing really on that market. I mean, unless I'm wrong, can you think of anybody?
I mean, you're going to have Kirk fresh off an ACL tear, right? And not a spring chicken anymore.
Yeah.
You're going to have Kirk Cousins out there as a bridge quarterback. You're going to have somebody where, it would be smart for Russell Wilson to take a 1-year prove-it deal, because I still think he's going to be making a ton of money from Denver, even though they're going to cut him before the roster deadline. I still believe he's getting paid a good amount of money this offseason, or this next season, from Denver's contract. I think somebody takes a shot at that if Russ is willing to take league minimum, considering he is already close to.
Would he reunite in Seattle?
Minimum,
no, I'm just kidding.
I don't know if he's going back there, but
I'm just kidding.
Somebody's going to take a chance there, and if you can get him to buy into playing system football instead of trying to win games all on his own, if you can run Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson, I mean, that's dangerous if you can get that going properly. And it
takes that type of coach to come in and do that. And I think that's where if you do what you said and bring in, say, a veteran quarterback on a minimum deal in Atlanta, and then you make it a quarterback competition between him and Ridder, and you make it a competition. I think they have Heineke too, but let's be honest, Heineke's had his day in the sun.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
he's done. So, but if you could bring in a coach that knows what to do with that run game and could put Russell Wilson and or Ritter in a good position, Atlanta could be a team because let's be honest, that NFC South is up for grabs. Like, there's nobody that's standing out right now. Like, yes, I know Tampa won. Yes, I know Tampa ended the season pretty strong, but at the same time, they were 9-8. This division
Well,
isn't blowing anybody away, and if you can get the right coach to come in and put in the right system, and you can run the ball, control the clock, play good defense, I think Atlanta could be dangerous in the South. So I look at that as a good landing spot for one of these coaches. As to who goes there, I have no idea.
yeah, I don't either, but you're right. I can agree with you on that. You brought up some really good points. Like, it's a winnable division. And then you look at the team that did win the division, talking about possibly extending Baker Mayfield for a couple more years. Well, I don't know if you watched Tampa Bay at all this year, but only person Baker Mayfield seemed to throw the ball to most of the year was Mike Evans. And Mike Evans is on the last year of his contract right now. There's no guarantee that he's going back to Tampa Bay. And I think he's going to be even though he's a little up there in age as far as football is concerned, I think he's going to be a highly sought after wide receiver who's going to have choice of where
year
he
after
wants
year,
to go.
man. He is as good
Just
as it
consistent.
gets. As good as it gets. He's a number one. He is.
Yeah. So he's going to have choice. You're going to have a team like the Giants making a phone call and say, hey, you want to come play in New York? There's going to be those teams out there, or there's going to be a team that already has a really good wide receiver that just wants to add another piece, and maybe that gets them over the top. He's going to have choice, and his choice is going to be, do I want to go make money, or do I want to go win a Super Bowl, or do I want to do both? But there's a good chance that team without Mike Evans is another 4 or 5 win team this year. So, I mean, I know they have a good young running back in Rachaad White, but I feel like you take Mike Evans away from Baker Mayfield, and where's he going to throw the ball? Chris Godwin's there, but he was there this year, and he didn't use him. Godwin was getting 6-7 catches a game for maybe 60, 70 yards, but when all was said and done, it was, to use Dave's line, when it's all said and done, it was a Mike Evans show down there. And you're right. I mean, Atlanta is sexy for a head coach coming in, whether it's a first-time head coach or whether it's a veteran head coach, because you're legitimately opening yourself up for a first-year playoff run and a division title and a home playoff game in the Georgia Dome, where the place will be going nuts. I mean, you saw Detroit yesterday. You get these guys in these domes who haven't been there in a minute, and these fans
I'm
go
telling
crazy.
you, Detroit had everything going for it. I didn't. Now, the way that game started, crazy compared to the way it ended. Like, there was scoring. And then the second half of that game was, like, unlike the first half.
Right. Well, and I know that at a later date, we're going to get into this once this first round wraps up and you start talking about the second round. But I didn't get to watch a lot of the games because, I got other things going on, whether it was an overtime call at work or I had to go ref a hockey game or, I got a kid who needs to be put to bed or whatever. But I did get to watch a little bit of every game. And one thing I noticed this year, it's not like when we were kids watching playoff football where, like, let's compare it to a heavyweight fight. You come out, you throw some body blows, you kind of walk around the ring a little bit, you feel your opponent out. The teams that were doing that, it did not go well for. The teams that came out, played loose, slung it like they didn't have nothing to lose, and like they didn't care if they were going to get knocked out of the playoffs, those teams had success. You look at Houston came out slinging it, just slinging it. You had KC came out in the negative 27 with the wind chill. They weren't afraid to throw the ball, and it helped. They came out throwing. And so it's not like when we used to watch the playoffs when we were kids. Like, these guys, the guys that come out and they're trying to play conservative, they're kicking themselves in the butt right now. They should have just come out with it. Their game plan was wrong to start the game. The teams that are coming out slinging it are having success. They're playing loose and they're letting their guys play football. It's a different league, and you got to adjust. And you can't just come out and think we're going to run the ball for the first couple drives and feel it out and get our guys' feet wet.
Well,
there's no more getting your feet wet. You're in the game.
To go to that point, though, you look at a team that's got an opening that their whole system was based on that, but now they've not only fired their head coach, but their ram or the battering ram of a running back has retired, you look at the Titans. Like the Titans, Vrabel, guy who was on top of the mountain a couple years ago, running, Derrick Henry, wear down those defenses, get to that fourth quarter where you're just, 30, 40 times a game giving it to them. Those teams don't really exist anymore. They're not there.
No,
You don't have that message coming out. You don't start the game slow. You want to come out, like you said, slinging it. You want to come out scoring big plays, get the crowd involved, get the momentum behind you. You want that energy. You don't want to come out flat. And sometimes that old style, you can tend to, if it doesn't work, come out flat. Because you do that a couple times, you go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Next thing you know, you're down 2 scores. And you've got to try to change your game plan. So that's why I think it ended up costing Vrabel, because he wasn't in line with other management there. And, I just look at it as Derrick Henry was tired of getting beat up. Like, he was like, all right, I'm good. I've done what I could do here. Like, he's put his body through a lot. He's run over a lot of people. And now, what do you do with this Tennessee team? Because they have to go in a different direction, but do you trust the weapons they have, and would a coach be able to really do something with it? Because I look at this as a team that's kind of on the downside right now, that could be in trouble unless somehow they're able to. I mean, they draft 7th. Could a quarterback they like fall to him at 7? Possibly. I definitely don't see a Marvin Harrison Jr. dropping that low. Maybe they get one of the top 2 offensive linemen there at 7. But either way, I don't think it's going to be one of the top quarterbacks. I don't think it's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. So I look at it as, what does this team do? And is it even an enticing job? Because there's so many guys that they're interviewing. Even Antonio Pierce is taking an interview there this weekend, which is stupid because the Raiders should be hiring him right now. But still, like, the Giants' offensive coordinator, Mike Kafka, I think interviewed last week, or the week before.
Please hire him.
Yes, take him, please. But who would really be interested in this? Because I don't think, I think this is more of a guy either trying to be an up-and-comer or, I don't know. I don't know who'd want this. If you're a successful coach already, there's plenty of other teams with more talent. I don't know why you take this job right
now. Another big question there is going to be, because I know Tannehill came back in at the end of the year, but it was due to injury. The other big question is going to be, how does management feel about Will Levis? Do they think he's the guy? And do they think they can bring somebody in who can, move him along and develop him? Because he's got an arm. He can play. He showed flashes of being able to play good football.
Do they base their coaching decision on that, of finding a guy who thinks that, okay, he says he could deal with Will Levis, that's the guy we're taking, because he's the only one who said he could deal with Will Levis.
If you're upper management and you think Will Levis is the guy, you drafted him to be the guy, even after, the year after they drafted Malik Willis and realized that he was not the guy. You brought in Will Levis. He's got an arm. He can play football, but he needs to be groomed. He needs to be polished. So do you bring in a guy who can develop a quarterback, or can bring someone in as an offensive coordinator who can develop a quarterback? So that's going to be part of the decision, is going to be, do we think Will Levis is our guy? And then do we base that hiring off of that? On the flip side of that, you just brought up, how Mike Vrabel needs to kind of catch up with the times. You can't run a guy like Derrick Henry and win football games anymore. So, a lot of the things I'm hearing is he's going to be the front runner for that choice job, which is LA Chargers. Can he change his ways and play a more aired out style of football? Or is he going to,
with those weapons? He
obviously
should.
He can't rely. He has to, but that's the thing.
Mean, come on.
If they end up hiring him, is he going to be able to do that? Is the big question. Or does he bring in the right offensive coordinator who can? Right.
I don't
At some
think he's
point,
going
as a head
to
coach,
Chargers. That's just my opinion, though. But I don't think he's going there.
I mean, from what I hear, he's got choice, and that's the choice job. So unless things fall through in the interview,
But why would he have choice over, say, a Jim Harbaugh who just won a national championship? Why would he have choice?
Because,
why?
Well, say Jim Harbaugh stays at Michigan.
Okay, I'm saying if he's got a chance at the NFL right now, he's jumping ship because he's not going to be able to replicate it. Plus, going to a 12-team playoff next year. This is the last 14 playoff one. He's going to ride off into that Michigan sunset. Yeah, I am too a little bit because, again, I think that'll give – it's definitely going to stop some bitching, but it's going to definitely start others. So, I don't know.
Well, then the 13 and the 14, and, it's just going to extend. The bitching will just extend.
Yeah. Eventually, it'll go to like deeper. A 32-team, nonsense.
Then it's going to be, It's just going to be a league. It's going to be like 32 teams make the league, and then the last two get relegated. It's going to be like the Premier League soccer program, right? Like they're just going to take college football. They'll be like, all right, this is our 32-team league. The rest of you guys are the B League. You play for the B National Championship or whatever.
That's pretty much what it is, though. If you look at what the SEC and the Big Ten are building, like the Big Ten now is a joke. Like you can't call it the Big Ten anymore. Like they really need to come up with a new name. I know we're getting way off topic here, but I mean seriously, that is an absolutely like laughable name at this point. But still, the amount of teams showing
that's why you don't even see you don't even see the number 10 anymore. It just says big.
And then I would want to know who's going to try to follow up Harbaugh at Michigan, because I do think this is best chance right now, especially with a team like the Chargers, who he's been linked to. They have a ton of talent, and they have young talent. They still have Justin Herbert. They have a chance. They still have a window there to win, and I think he sees that. So I think that's a good opportunity. I also, like I said, wouldn't be surprised if that Dallas job opened up and his name got kicked around there too. But
yeah, and he's got that. He's got that Super Bowl experience as well. I mean, he lost, but he's been there and he's taken a team there, so that helps his case definitely.
And another coaching move that should be made wasn't made. We all know why it wasn't made. But how long next season do the Jets stay with Saleh? If they start off bumpy or if Rodgers comes out the gate stumbling?
Listen to me. That's going to be, I'd say, if they're mid-season below 500, I think he's gone. You have your quarterback. You know it's Aaron Rodgers. If this thing don't work out by mid-season, he's out. We got an interim, and they're looking for a new head coach and redrafting a new quarterback and probably screwing the pooch all over again. He's a hype man, He came in. I'm not going to sit here and say, but I don't know. Like, he came from being a hype man. That's what he was.
But that's a lot of college coaches are hype men, though. Because, to be honest, that's what Pete Carroll was. Pete Carroll was an unsuccessful NFL coach who was a hype man and was better, to be honest, in college and did some really good things at USC, won a lot of games, got himself an opportunity back with Seattle, who for a little while there was one of the youngest teams in the NFL, which again was, I think, his rah-rah attitude related to that team, is because he had such a young group of people, back in the Legion of Boom days and whatnot, but young Russell Wilson days. But I don't feel that same magic or anything with Saleh and the Jets. Like, I don't feel that same way when I see Saleh, that, like, you could see that in Pete Carroll. I don't see that in Saleh. When I listen to him, weekly on, the Michael K. Show podcast or on, whatever else, Pat McAfee or whatever. Like, when you listen to him on these other shows, like, he sounds blah. He doesn't sound rah-rah to me. He doesn't sound like he's pumping me up in the locker room, giving me that halftime speech, which, by the way, I didn't hear, but I heard Jimmy Johnson gave one hell of a pumped up halftime speech during the halftime of the Cowboy game versus Green Bay. But, where McCarthy was probably just, flatlined in the room somewhere. He was just like, he wasn't making it. You got to have somebody that injects some kind of energy. I don't know if they inject that right energy. I don't know if he's injecting that right energy.
In Saleh's defense, I mean, if you coached for the New York Jets organization for a couple of years, it probably sucked the life out of you too, right?
But he had one of the best defenses. Everybody looked at this team as an up-and-coming team. Before this season, they were talked about as Super Bowl contenders. And that's why I look at it and say, he should have been fired at the end of this year, even if you want to keep Hackett. You keep Hackett just to keep Rodgers happy. But Salah
Right.
shouldn't have
No,
kept his
but
job. To me, the rest of the team, maybe the defense was playing hard for him, but offensively, they had nothing. And I know a lot of that is on, Hackett as well, because really he's been nothing without Rodgers, and Rodgers and him are buds. And that's cool. And I'm glad he brought his buddy along, but his buddy really isn't any good without him on the field.
well, and it's a horrible thing to say, but I think the best thing that happened to Robert Sala's job was Aaron Rodgers tearing his ACL, because
Guaranteed
it
him
gave him
another
an
year.
excuse to keep him around one more time.
But that's
Here
just
you
it.
go.
Aren't
Here's
the
your
Jets
last
just
shot.
kicking the can down the road at this point?
I believe they are. I mean, we saw it with Brett Favre when they brought Brett Favre in. So it just seems like they just keep, history repeats itself, but they just keep repeating it themselves. But we have to get into it if we're going to be talking about coaches. I know it's not head coaches, but what about the blow up with Wink Martindale and Brian Dable, and what's going to go on there? And there's no official resignation, but then there is, but then there isn't. Like,
I believe the story
it's a
that came
mess.
out, and the story that came out sounded very, very credible and normal to me. So you know how Wink and Dable have been feuding most of the year. It's been pretty well known. It's been written about. It's been talked about. Whatever. Haven't seen eye to eye on some things. Fine. Whatever. Made it
Right.
work. Apparently, what happened is they called like a team meeting or whatever, and that's when Wink Martindale found out that not the Winklevoss, because they're they're a totally different group of brothers, set of brothers. But there's two brothers, the Wilkins maybe brothers or the Wilkes brothers that were on the team.
Yes.
I don't even know who they are. That's how obscure they are. But apparently they've been a part of Wink Martindale's defensive staff everywhere he's been. Like, they're his guys. Like, that's like part of his inner circle, Wink's inner circle. Well, apparently they fired these two guys and didn't tell Wink. Wink found out about it when he showed up at the meeting. When he showed up at the meeting, he stood up, told Dable to go F himself, told him he was shit. His offense never, ever scored on his defense when they played in practice, and that he deserves like everything coming to him or something like that, and stormed out. And from there, that's when they said, like, oh, well, he's going to be resigning. But the thing is if he resigns, he doesn't get his money. The thing is, the Giants didn't fire him. Like, what they did is they tried to force him out. What they did is they said, we fired your two other guys. Oh, well, deal with it. And he doesn't want to deal with it. I get that. But, and so he blew up. So I heard he went home, he typed his resignation, but yet it has not been submitted to the Giants. So why he hasn't submitted it to the Giants is because they're trying to work something out, because he still wants his money, but he knows that he can't get his money. So he's trying to work it out to where the Giants will let him go wherever he wants to go. And the Giants don't really want to let him go wherever he wants to go, because, listen, it's kind of just everybody wants to, see who's, see who's, stick is bigger. You know what I mean? Like, it's the petty childish games. And to me, it's not really the Giant way, but at the same time, it's funny. And I totally believe it. So that's the story I'm going to choose to believe until somebody tells me differently. I don't know if you've heard differently, so I'll throw it to you now. But that's the story. And, I'm on the Giants side. Screw it. You're still on the staff. Do your job. If you're going to be a detriment to the team, well, then that's on you, and we'll let you go, and you won't get paid, and you won't get to go where you want to go.
Well, listen, let's look at some numbers here. Were they the 27th ranked defense in the league? Absolutely. But did they have an offense that couldn't stay on the field? Yes. What do they have? They tied for first place with the Baltimore Ravens for turnovers this year, forced turnovers. So I believe it wasn't a Wink Martindale problem. But here's the thing. I believe he's a very good defensive coordinator. I believe he had that defense playing better than what they are. As a coordinator who's still under contract for another year with the team, he cannot go interview for other coordinator jobs without team permission, right? Mm-hmm. He can go up. He can take a head coaching job, but he cannot go lateral unless the team allows him to or fires him. So if he resigns, he doesn't get his money. Mm-hmm. But if they fire him, there's a possible defensive coordinator job opening across the river in Philly. You want to play against Wink Martindale twice a year, especially when he's pissed off at you and knows your whole entire offense? I don't. There's a defensive coordinator job open in Washington. So when you're angry and you get pushed out of somewhere, the Giants don't want to let him go because they don't want to play him twice a year. They don't want him going interdivision. And I think, as angry as he is, he'd probably take a pay cut to go coach a defense of one of those two teams.
Oh, yeah, he's pissed right now. He is
right?
so pissed. Again, I would be too. You know that these are his two guys. He brought them along, and then you're going to go and fire him, not even tell him, and then...
Yeah, I mean, there's a way to do things within
and that's
a business.
not the Giant way, in my opinion. That's not the Giant way.
No, and that's maybe the new blood general manager, young guy, maybe being a little bit more throat because maybe that's what the team needs. You can't have I can't even remember the guy's name, thank God, Mr. Hogmolly. You can't be politically correct sometimes. Sometimes you just got to cut ties or make the hard decisions as a team. But I also feel like there's a way to do it. And if you're going to let a guy's people go, you at least call him in and let him know. Or you let him fire them. It could have been something as simple as that. Like, we got to let these two guys go. If you want to do it, you can do it. But we just want to let you know before we do it. So I think it was a little underhanded, a little undermining the way they did it. And I don't fault him for being angry and storming out and telling everybody to F off. And then he took a flight down to Florida, from what I understand. He's hanging out down at the beach right now.
Yep.
Probably figuring out what he's going to do, but
speaking of guys figuring out what to do, I want to throw it to something silly, something fun just to think about. What do you think Belichick and Saban should do with their time right now? As two guys who are 71 and 72 years old, respectively. We'll even throw Pete Carroll in there at 72 as well. What do you think these guys should do? Because I almost feel like they should get together, either do some kind of podcast themselves, either do some kind of, or I heard a great idea somebody told me the other day of almost like a reality show. Like, how like you have like kitchen nightmares where you have like coaching nightmares and you have like a team that's like all in disarray and you bring in those guys and like, Saban focuses with, the offense and Pete Carroll focuses on the special teams and Belichick focuses on it and they take them, and they, these guys are going to do something. They're not just going to go sit on an island somewhere. They love football. People want to hear what they have to say, especially Belichick now, because he gave you nothing media-wise for the last 25 years. Like, you want to hear what these guys have to say, especially they have a ton of football knowledge. So I just want to know, what do you think they should do with their time? Or should they just, say, screw it, team up for a year and say, let's go coach, you coach an offense, I'll coach defense, let's find a team. Like one of these teams, like, say the Titans. Just find a coach they like, be like, you be the head coach. We're just going to come
Giants.
in, wherever. You know what I mean? Or just go be an assistant somewhere, just for fun. Like, what are these guys going to do? Because they're going to do something now, or they should do something now is what I was going to say. Or, because why not? And people want to hear from them.
Yeah. Hey man, it's like you said, it's a fun conversation. They both have ties to Dable. Belichick has ties to the Giants. Come be our defensive coordinator. Let the other one be the offensive coordinator. Let's figure it out, But in all honesty, based on what we've gotten from them media wise, and what I've seen over the last 20 some odd years, I think Saban goes into the booth, like you had mentioned in the text message thread that we had. I think he goes somewhere, takes an ESPN type job, not even doing call play-by-play. I think he's going to be sitting there doing halftime shows, pregame shows and things like that. I think Belichick, with the mind that he has for football, doesn't need to be walking up and down a cold sideline in December at 71 years old.
Neither
anymore.
of them do, to be honest.
I agree. But that's why I think, Saban ends up in a studio somewhere, and Belichick, in my opinion, should end up in a front office somewhere.
All right,
making decisions. Not calling plays, not
your ideas are much more logical than mine.
I agree.
I'm living a coaching fantasy world over here.
I mean, we're talking about a guy in Bill Belichick who, when in the 2020 draft, was told that he has to have a camera in his kitchen, left the camera fixed on his dog for the entire draft. His dog sitting at a laptop. Like, I just don't see that guy
Speaking of
going on TV somewhere.
speaking of just having your phone,
He's
and
hilarious.
speaking of having your phone, did you see this stupid video of Skip Bayless throwing away his Dallas stuff after the loss?
No, I did
So staged, so ridiculous. Like he storms in. Now somebody's holding a camera, so like obviously they know he's coming, and like he's got a T-shirt and he opens up the garbage can, and the stupidest part of the whole thing is the garbage can he was using, the lid kept closing. So then every time he would get frustrated and have to like rip the lid open again to throw away the next thing, he threw away another T-shirt. And then the lid closes again. He's got to open the lid and throw the jersey away. And then he, open the lid and throw the other jersey away. And it just, to me, it just cracked me up. But at the same time, I was like, this is so stupid. Like, absolutely stupid. Now, he's probably going to be number one on the fire McCarthy bandwagon, but yeah, bring it back full circle.
Look, man, and you know what's funny too? It's like misery loves company. I enjoy seeing them get knocked out of the first round, but like as a fan, like your team makes it to the first round, then your rival fans, and then they get knocked out. Your rival fans are always like, "Oh, I'd rather not be there." I'm not that kind of guy, Like the Dallas Cowboys got to root for good football for 18 weeks of the year. With the playoffs included, obviously you subtract the bye, 17 plus 1 is 18, but they got to root for good football for 18 weeks, like as Giant fans, what did we have as far as meaningful games? 4, maybe the first 3, and then that little bit of time where Tommy DeVito was doing things that he shouldn't have been doing, and then the Saints exploited him, where the Giants all of a sudden got themselves into the hunt conversation. So like obviously they had a great season. They fell short in the playoffs. That's why you go out and play football. It's nobody's gonna hand it to you. But as a fan, like I'll never be that guy who says, "Oh, I'd rather not be there than lose the first round."
No, you always
I'd rather
root
there. For as much good I'd rather root for as much good football as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Giant fan, we got 4 weeks. They got 18. I'm jealous. I just want 17 weeks, they don't even have to make the playoffs. Just be there at the end, give me something to root for in week 18, please. Like, I know we had it last year, but it felt like, was I disappointed by this year? 100% as far as the Giants go. Was I surprised? No, because I felt like they had some games last season that they should have lost that they won because they played hard. They were tryhards. They weren't as good at tryhards as Detroit, obviously, but they were tryhards.
They weren't this year.
Themselves the playoffs, and they got them.
They
weren't.
That's a conversation for another day. But they definitely were not the tryhards this year, and you could tell 100% in the effort on the field. And like I said, like when Barkley went off in the last game of the season too. No. But I just want to point out one thing too. What really disappointed me is the way Barkley went off in the last game. He had like 6 or 7 touchdowns all year. 3 of them came in week 18. Like,
right.
I feel like his effort level wasn't there until he knew it needed to be because the Giants weren't going to re-sign him or do the franchise tag again because franchise tag would have cost him more money next year or this coming year. So I think they're pretty much going to part ways, and he's pretty much put on a clinic the last week of the season to showcase. And that, to me, bothered me a little bit. So, like, I definitely have a problem with the tryhards, and I got to be honest, if this team doesn't turn it around, if we hear of more turmoil behind the scenes, I think Shane's got to have the balls and the guts, to cut Daboll if he needs to. I hope not, because I really think he could be a very successful coach in this league. I think he could be here for a long time. But at the same time, he's going to have to really turn it around, get the morale turned around, get the team turned around. But it's going to be hard. We're going to have to see what they do with the 6th pick. But if it's not a good pick, if it doesn't pan out and they have another unsuccessful year with turmoil, this time next year, we'll be talking about a new Giants head coaching search, I think.
I don't want to in a year or two be looking back and say, man, we should have just stuck with Wink.
Yeah.
Made him head coach,
Right. Or Kafka.
I think he's one of those guys.
Yeah.
I think Wink's one of
the. He's no Kevin Killdrive. Come on now.
Though.
Come on now. He's no Kevin Killdrive.
I think Wink's one of those guys.
He's no halfback dive up the middle.
That football knowledge. You know what I'm saying? But no, to be honest though, like you start out a season as bad as they did, and you have a team that's consistently getting themselves in the 3rd and 15, and you're still throwing screen passes or draws, or it felt similar, At least Killdrive was there for a Super Bowl or two, but it felt similar. It felt like, all right, the season's not going how we want it to go right now. We got to do something to turn around. Maybe we have some things dialed up for 3rd and 15. And it just felt like they never did that. And also, Houston's not known for having the greatest offensive line in the world, right? But a guy like C.J. Stroud, he played around it. He's a smart football player. He knows within the system. Now, I didn't watch enough Houston games start to finish to see if he's checking down, if he's, calling audibles or calling hot routes or checking to this or checking to that. But I do know when whatever routes were being run against whatever defense, he knew exactly where to throw the ball. So it doesn't always, the Giants fans all want to say, well, we have a bad offensive line. We have a bad offense. It doesn't matter to me because a good player can play behind a bad offensive line. I was disappointed in Saquon Barkley, not for the reasons you mentioned this year. I just thought that he's one of those guys who can be an X factor and make a bad offensive line look good. They always say great players make bad players look good. Where was that?
We got to talk about one more coaching move because it's probably going to happen in about 4 hours from now. Hang on. All right. Well, that just went off wild. But anyway, we got to talk about this last coaching one. Apologize about that. Little whatever. Eagles down 13-0. If they lose this game, if and when they lose this game, I should say, it's gonna be mayhem. It's gonna be ugly. And how fast do the Eagles fire Soriano? Is it gonna be who's gonna have their head coaching job longer? Nick Sirianni with the Eagles or Mike McCarthy with Dallas? And then question number 2. Does Sirianni get picked up somewhere else because he hasn't been that bad, even though Philly struggled down the stretch? How fast does he get picked up? How sought after is he? Does he get his pick? Is he now ahead of Vrabel? Because at least he's won a title. So, now you might have Jim Harbaugh and you might have Sirianni above Vrabel's name. And maybe that's why Vrabel hasn't signed anything yet. Maybe these teams are waiting to see where the chips fall first, because I have a feeling that the Eagles fans are going to have Sirianni's head on a platter after this game, if this holds true.
And honestly, that's a lot of what you've been hearing behind the scenes type stuff, is that he's lost the locker room. So I don't know,
I think he gets another chance somewhere else.
I told you before. I think he does too, but I told you before the game started who I had picked to win this game. I feel like the Philadelphia Eagles are in shambles in the last few weeks of the season. You also have a quarterback whose throwing hand, I believe, is dinged up. You're missing. I haven't been able to watch the game because I'm in my 3x3 laundry room right now, so I can talk to you.
It's second quarter, and it's 13-0.
But I don't know. As far as I knew, A.J. Brown was not playing tonight, but Devontae Smith was.
See if I can get some game.
Who's scoring? Here.
But to go to Sirianni, though, does he get picked up somewhere faster than Vrabel? Because I think he does.
I'm not sure, man. The way how do you go from the top of the mountain to the bottom so fast? I think that's going to deter teams from hiring him. And we still haven't answered my question from earlier. Do you think Bieniemy finally gets a shot this year?
No. I don't think. I think for Washington 4-13, he hasn't done enough yet. I think.
So you put it. He's at the bottom of the list. He's gonna. Yeah, he's obviously gonna get interviews.
He's gonna get interviews, but I mean, Again, which job? Me? Which job? Which job? That's the question I'll have for you. Which job would take him? Which over the candidates that we've talked about already today? I think there's a lot out there, and there's not as many openings. So I just don't know if this is his year. Although we've talked in the past, we know that he deserves it. But
absolutely, I don't know if it's because he's short and chubby or what. And that's not the guy you want walking down your sideline as the face of the franchise. I don't know what it is. But Sirianni, who knows, dude? Maybe he gets a coordinator job somewhere before he gets another shot at a head coaching job. Because we do see that happen a lot. Guys get fired as a head coach, they go back on as a coordinator for a bit, and then they come back around. Hard to tell. But I think you're right. I think especially if 13-0 turns into 30-0, he gone.
Yeah.
If they come back and if it's a close one, and they're missing weapons, he may have that little bit of an excuse that maybe they keep him on one more year because he did bring him to a Super Bowl last year and win it, but he brought him there. I don't know, man. It's hard. I think if it ends close, I think he stays. I don't think that they can him. But if they get totally smoked, I think that's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us here tonight, my friend.
I think so. I think we've covered everything. I'm sorry if my energy or everything wasn't where it should have been tonight.
No,
but
listen, buddy, you were beautiful. You're beautiful as always. I can't wait to do this again with you. This has been a ton of fun. This is second podcast in the books. So thank you so much for being here. Like I said, hope you could join me and Dave on Wednesday. We're going to be doing this again on Wednesday. Should have it uploaded by Thursday. Thank anybody who takes the time to listen. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. And till next time, yeah. Love you, brother. Love you, Dad. And talk to you soon, buddy.
Yeah, man. Talk to you soon. And it's been a blast. And I will do my best to be there Wednesday.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
All right, later.